Hey there, House Haven team. Thank you again for choosing to, or not choosing to, be a part of our weekly House Haven Realty newsletters. Now, a lot of realtors look for desperate ways to get people's attention with flashiness or, bright lights or cool edits. We're not doing any of that here. You're going to get just Steven, the original Steven, being himself, not being flashy, and being honest. So, what you're going to get right now for this week at House Haven is we're going to go through a very basic, quick, and simple buying process from what I call the coffee to close. When you have a conversation with a realtor to when you actually get to the closing table. Now, I'm going to make this very quick, very specific. If you have questions, obviously you can call me or respond to my email. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to find yourself a realtor. You want to make sure that you don't just get any family friend, but you want to find someone who does this for a living, has closed more than at least 8 houses a year, and understands the area, whether they live downtown or live in a suburb that they're working in, or have been here for a longer period of time than just a few months. Once you do that, get a coffee with them. You don't have to commit to them, but just grab a coffee and ask them a couple questions and see if you vibe out with that individual. The biggest thing that you want to make sure of is, two things. Number one, are they good or not at negotiating? Because that's everything. And then number two, are they going to answer their phone after 5 and on the weekends? Once you find that realtor and you guys really hit it off, then you're going to begin the process of having that conversation about buying a home. Now, your realtor is going to ask you a couple questions, but the most important question that they're going to get to is, have you been pre-qualified with a lender? And that is step 2, pre-qualification with a lender. When you pick a lender, make sure you ask them a couple questions. Make sure that they answer their phone. I recommend not using your bank because there's multiple branches that you'd have to speak to and they aren't available on holidays or weekends. And I also recommend not using an online lender like a Quicken Loans or a Lending Tree because they're going to put some numbers in a calculator when you apply. When you're 3 weeks into your contract, those numbers are going to change. Your closing costs are going to go up because you saw a low rate when you applied. But when you get in 3 weeks, you realize that you're actually buying that rate down and didn't even know it. Once you choose your lender, they're going to give you a pre-qualification. They're going to give you a high number as far as what you can purchase. Don't worry about that high number though. The number that we want to focus on is, here's what I'm comfortable putting down, and here's my ideal target mortgage. Those two things are going to create a price point that is your target price point. That target price point is then going to be given to the realtor. The realtor will use that to find the perfect area that fits your criteria. Your price point is very essential to figuring out where you're going to live. Nashville is a very zip code driven city. 37205 where Green Hills is, the average price point is 1.1 million. 37209 where I live in the Nations, the average price point is 640. And they're about a mile apart. So getting that pre-qualification from your lender, which is just a soft credit pull, it's not going to really damage you, is essential. It's free and it lasts for 90 days. Once you get the pre-qualification, you're going to bring it back to your realtor. Your realtor is going to look at that. You're going to have a great conversation with your realtor about your criteria, as well as your ideal location, proximity to work, proximity to the airport. Do you need a yard? Are you okay living in a townhouse? Things of that nature. Then your realtor is going to set up your search. The ideal goal is to look within, 3 to 4 months of your actual purchase price date, because that way what you'll do is you'll cast a wide net for your search, and then you'll start previewing properties. And as you preview properties, you'll realize you like things that you didn't expect you'd like. You may be okay, for example, with a 900 square foot home, even thought maybe you had to have 1,300 or more. But if there's no walls, open concept, high ceiling, 900 square feet isn't that bad. So as you start previewing properties, casting a wide net, over time, that net will shrink. You'll finally get a better idea of what you're looking for, and then you'll really start hunting within 30 to 45 days of your purchase date, maybe even 60 days. When you start hunting, you're eventually going to walk into a house that you're just going to freeze. You're not going to give you feedback. You're going to fall in love with it, right? When that happens, you're probably going to write an offer on that property. So when you write an offer on that property, here's how it works. Let's say the house is listed for $500,000 and it just got on the market. Well, if you have a good realtor, they're going to give you an accurate expectation of, hey, it just got on the market. They've had multiple showings. I doubt that they're going to really negotiate much. Now, the rule of thumb for me, at least, is 10 days. If it's been on the market for 10 days or more, that's a different conversation. Your realtor should walk up there and start playing ball, right? I want to get your purchase price down. I want to negotiate your closing costs. Your closing costs, when you write an offer on a house, are negotiable. Your closing costs are 3 things. 1, lender fees, which is obviously paying a lender to get you that money, to go through underwriting, to get conditional approval, to pay for your appraisal, to get all your docs ready, to look at your tax returns. A lot of things go into that. That's about 1% of the sales price. The second thing out of your 3 things are title expenses. You have to do a title search on the property. You have to make sure that there's no liens or judgments. You have to have title insurance on the property after that title search to ensure there's no liens and judgments. And then you have to have a notarized or licensed individual to come in and do your closing on day 30. And that also costs money. And the last thing are what are called prepaids. You pay a year's worth of a year's worth of property taxes and a year's worth of homeowner's insurance up front. It gets rolled to an escrow account, and then you pay it out every month. Usually, closing costs are between 2.5% and 3.5%, depending on what your prepaids are, because those vary because they're your decisions based on what you budget and what homeowner's insurance provider you choose. So let's just say the house just got listed. You have to pay all of your closing costs, which let's just call it 3%, and you're putting down 10%. The second your offer is accepted, that's called a binding agreement date. All of your timelines begin from there. The average contract goes for 30 days. So your binding agreement date's on day 1. You close, take possession of the house on day 30. Within the first 5 days of your binding agreement date, you have to give the seller, actually the title company, but for the seller, a 1% check for earnest money. That is a sign of good faith. You will get it back one way or another. If you pull out due to one of the 3 contingencies I'm about to list, they wire it back to you. If you close, it gets deducted from your total cash to close. Your total cash to close is your down payment plus your closing costs minus, let's call it $5,000 of 1% earnest money. Within the first 7 to 10 days, you'll have any and all inspections. This is your biggest due diligence period. This is also the time when you'll never see that money again. You're going to pay a fee to have someone come and look at a house. It's between $400 and $450. You're not going to see that money again, unlike the earnest money, because you're paying someone to do a service. You'll do any and all inspections to the property. If the reports come back good, great. We're going to move on. That contingency is now over. If they come back really bad, that's okay. We're going to back out of the contract due to inspection. They're going to send you your earnest money back. Within 2 weeks of your contract, 14 days to 20 days, you're going to have your appraisal. We may think the house is valued at $500,000, but it's really up to the bank and what they deem the house is worth. They're going to have someone come in, measure the house, look at comps, and then give you a price. If the price they give you is below $500,000, you have within 72 hours to renegotiate, back out, or pay whatever that difference is in cash. If the price is at $500,000 or above, we're going to move forward. That contingency is now over. And that moves us to our last and final contingency. Between day 1 and day 30, you have a financing contingency in place. If you lose your job for any reason and you are no longer financially capable to purchase the said property and can prove it with your lender, they will then write a letter of termination due to financing, and you will have your earnest money wired back. If we check through 1, 2, and 3 of contingencies, then within 2 days of closing on day 30, we'll do a final walkthrough. We'll go to the house together. If we had negotiated repairs, we will look and make sure all those repairs were done. We'll look at photos. We'll look at invoices of the people who did it. If we did not negotiate repairs and we just had it as is, we're just going to walk through and make sure that when the seller moved out, they didn't damage anything. They didn't run a couch through a wall, anything like that. If the final walkthrough works out well, the house is not damaged, then we are going to close. You're going to wire your money to our title company. The money that you're wiring is your total cash to close minus earnest money. I almost had a perfect one. And once it's wired, we're going to close hopefully early in the morning. Once you sign, seller signs, docs get physically swapped, lender funds, you own the house. You do not own the house until the seller receives their money. So I always recommend sign at 9 a.m. You'll be able to move in usually after 1 p.m. That's how you buy a house. Coffee to close. Like I said, nothing flashy. And thanks for watching.